All right, we are live here. Awesome. So, hi, Jacqueline.
Hi.
Hi, I'm gonna call you Jackie. I know you're Jacqueline Werket, but we talked about everyone at Fabric calls you Jackie, so I'll call you Jackie
Yes,
for this.
that's
Awesome.
fine.
Great. Well, I'm really excited about this episode of the Fabric podcast because we have been in the midst of an ongoing series on Sunday mornings and in small groups and in all sorts of places on grief. So this series has been called Beyond Platitudes Care IQ for Grief. And one of the
Yes.
things we've been talking about is like kind of the obvious thing that I think of when I think of grief is you
Mhm.
get the call that somebody who you know and love has died. But there's a lot of
Mhm.
other kinds of grief. There's the grief of a job loss, there's the grief of what could have been but isn't. There's all sorts of kinds of grief. And it just so happens that a person who sits as I'm standing up front on Sunday mornings, a person who when I look off to my left in the front row I see every week, Jackie. And Jackie is a retired board certified adult nurse practitioner and a certified grief recovery method specialist. She's also the co-author of the Amazon best-selling book called The Book on Love and the author of A Grief Postponed, a nurse practitioner's journey through delayed grief. And so, Jackie, I am just so curious if you would start by just telling us what delayed grief is and how did you come to learn so intimately about delayed grief?
Okay. Well, delayed grief is grief that ambushes us months or years later. It's
Hmm.
very common, but people don't talk about it, and so they remain isolated. I suffered a delayed grief reaction to the death of my son 10 years after he died.
Hmm.
3 months after the birth of my daughter, uh, we had divorced when Ian died, and this was my second marriage. I had a daughter, and she was 3 months old, and I'd been feeling well, but suddenly I felt headaches, body aches, fatigue, and I had fatigue so potent I thought if I stopped and gave into it, I'd die.
Hmm.
I was convinced I was physically ill. I knew that I could have anemia, a thyroid disorder, diabetes. Those things can happen after a pregnancy. So I went to the doctor, I had an exam, and I had blood work, and everything came back normal.
Hmm.
And I was really angry. I was angry that everything came back normal. I wanted to take a pill to make my symptoms go away.
Hmm.
That afternoon, I took my daughter to the grocery store and I had a panic attack. Upon returning home, we were trapped in the car during a thunderstorm.
Hmm.
I turned and I looked at my daughter, who was asleep in her car seat, and I was captured by her innocence, and I started to cry. I turned to get a Kleenex from my purse, and my eyes grazed the front of my house. A feeling stronger than deja vu encircled me. I thought, is this what it's all about?
Hmm.
Here I am with another child in front of another house and with another husband, and all my feelings belong to 1971, 10 years earlier, when Ian had died of leukemia at 16 and a half months old.
Hmm.
I leaned over my steering wheel and I sobbed as visions of my abandoned past engulfed me.
Hmm.
It was very intense. And I didn't know what to do. There was nothing, there were no books, we didn't have the internet in 81. I went to the library, I went to the bookstore, nothing on delayed grief.
Hmm.
And I realized that, you know, knowing when you need help is really deep wisdom, and that reaching out for help is a sign of strength, not weakness. It's a
Yeah.
sign of good of good health
Yeah.
to reach out. So I reached out for a therapist, and then I joined a grief group. So I joined a group 10 years after my son
Hmm.
had died.
And
I
so that
was,
10 years, you were, how aware were you about your own grieving? Like, did you think that your grief was done and in the past, or how, like, I'm just curious
yes,
where you were at then. Yeah.
I thought it was. I thought I had grieved Ian's death. I had felt sad. I had cried. I reasoned, but I did not process my grief, and
Hmm.
I did not come to peace with my grief. My family couldn't talk about it. No one could mention his name. My husband left 4 months later. I had to move, and I ended up distracted, which, you know, I was less focused on my grief than on the immediate stressors.
Hmm.
And then I over the next year, I began to repress my grief. I
Hmm.
quit rubbing my fingertips over his eyes and his lips in the photograph. I quit saying his name out loud to myself.
Hmm.
And over time, it just seemed like my grief had evaporated.
Hmm.
Um, and so I just went on with my life. But it did wreak havoc on my life, and I didn't understand what was going on.
Hmm.
I didn't understand why I was overreactive to minor issues, why I couldn't remember the anniversary of his death or his birthday.
Hmm.
And I'll tell you what I did with that a little later on.
Okay. Yeah, this thing, I mean, first of all, thank you for being willing to share your own story. I think that um, the more we are able to share our stories and our experiences of grief, the more, in a very specific, particular way, the more kind of universal we get to experience it together. Like I know for in my own life, I suspect that delayed grief um, will become a part of my life. I
Mhm.
like I had a cousin who died. Have I told you about this already? Well, it doesn't matter if I told
No,
you about this already
no.
because I haven't told everybody about this. So, like, I had a cousin named Katie who died unexpectedly in January of 2022. I think it
Hmm.
was. And here I am going like, wait, what year was that?
Yeah.
I think it was 2022. And uh,
Mm.
and what you're describing sounds familiar. Like I think that I know I cried, I know I screamed, I know I panicked, I know all of that in the moment.
Uh-huh.
Um, but goodness, like grief deserves to be honored and named and processed. And
Yes.
I wonder to what extent I haven't grieved fully. So I'm grateful to be on this call with you. And for
Yes.
anybody listening, I would suspect there's a lot of people who are either watching this or listening to this who might also say, I wonder if I've fully come to peace with my grief. So with that
Yes.
being said, I mean, I guess I'm just curious if you would talk to us a little bit about the causes of delayed grief, the triggers, the signs, that kind of thing. Of
Sure.
how do we know if this is something that we're dealing with?
Well, the causes we lack the skills to process complex emotions. We don't learn that in school. we assimilate uh, what our culture says about grief. We watch our parents, and if we're lucky, we have good role models.
Mm-hmm.
We can also lack an effective support system. And the key word is effective because you can have people surrounding you, but you may not feel that they are helpful.
Hmm.
Sudden death, and that can cause numbness. And what happens is it takes our emotions time to catch up with our minds.
Mm.
And so we're numb, and we can be numb for months. Some people are numb for years, and people think you're doing okay. So your support system moves on.
Mm.
And then if your numbness wears off, then you feel like there's no one else, no one to support you. And that's why reaching out to a grief group was really important. Distractions. I had the distractions of a move, a divorce. Um, we can have, maybe we have to take care of younger children or an elderly parent. Maybe we have to sort through a complex estate.
Mm.
Maybe we have a health problem, and that can distract us. Or we can have an addiction. An addiction numbs our feelings.
Mm.
And so we need to address our addiction before we or while we're moving forward or before.
Mm-hmm.
Then there's simultaneous stressors. Um, they can be a move, a divorce, a big work project, anything that diverts your time and energy that
Mm.
would be used for grieving. Those things can cause delayed grief because we're busy coping with other issues. Our life can just be, we could have family problems, we could have personal problems uh, that we're dealing with. And so our energy for grieving is used up. The triggers for delayed grief, it can be a scent, just a
Mm-hmm.
scent, like the scent of your grandmother's perfume, a taste, like maybe the chocolate chip cookies that your mother used to make, a
Mm.
song, a book, a movie,
Mm-hmm.
special events, and a friend's loss or another loss. Certainly, holidays, anniversaries of the death, and birthdays can trigger your delayed grief. But I want to clarify that most people who have lost someone do
Mm-hmm.
reflect on that loss during the holidays. And
Yeah.
delayed grief is different, it's much more intense, and it doesn't dissipate after the holidays. It just keeps
Mm-hmm.
getting more intense.
Yeah.
So that's different. Some of the signs, memory loss. Um, I forgot the my son's birthday and the day of his death. But every year during the spring, the time Ian was diagnosed with leukemia, treated with chemotherapy, and died, my body remembered.
Mm.
Everything from my fingertips down to my toes ached. Even my scalp hurt to touch. I had acquired a visceral response to spring, and this would
Mm-hmm.
happen every spring.
Wow.
Some of the signs, other signs besides memory loss, it can be of the funeral, certain interactions you had with the deceased. Um, Hold on, I'm going to check my notes.
Okay.
Avoidance.
Mm-hmm.
If we avoid persons, places or things that remind us of the loss. Mood swings, wide mood swings. We overreact to things that are minor. And
Mm,
I did that. And I was always confused. Why am I reacting like this? It
yeah.
didn't compute because the things were minor. It causes difficulty with personal relationships. And that's because delayed grief is sequestered, and along with it, a part of ourselves. So it limits our ability to experience love, joy, and connection because we're not whole.
Yeah.
And again, numbness. Numbness be can definitely be a sign of
Mm-hmm.
delayed grief.
Mm,
So when my delayed grief exploded, I decided to go to a grief group. And I was anxious about going to a grief group 10 years after my son died. I thought, oh, they're going to think I'm crazy. It's been 10 years.
yeah, right.
But they didn't. They welcomed me with open arms. And
Mm,
one of them said, I'm so glad you're here. I can't imagine grieving alone.
mm,
And I learned that healing takes place within community, not in isolation.
yeah,
It
yeah,
was helpful for me to tell my story out loud because I could see where I got hung up, where I hit a wall, what
yeah.
stopped me. And then other people brought up issues that I had forgotten about or didn't want to think about.
Mm-hmm.
So uh, it was such a healing experience.
Mm,
Um, I worked through all of my sadness, my rage because I had died so young, my anger with the doctors. I was really angry with the doctors. My husband and I were really young, and we were in a teaching hospital,
mm,
and they encouraged us to treat Ian, and he had what is called megakaryocytic leukemia. It's a rare kind of leukemia. And they failed to tell us that no one, not even an adult, had gone into remission.
mm.
And when I found that out, I was I was angry.
Yeah, I
I
bet.
was really angry. And of course uh what else? My magical thinking. 2 weeks before Ian had died, I had a dream that I was single and free. I had no children. And in this dream, I was happy.
Hmm.
And when when Ian was diagnosed with leukemia, in my mind, I said, I caused it.
Mm,
It's because I wasn't grateful for my life as it was, for having a son. I wasn't grateful. And that's what's called magical thinking. It's when you connect two things that don't go together and you come to a conclusion that doesn't make any sense.
yeah.
So I was able to let go of that. It was wonderful to hear other people's stories. One thing I want to say about a grief group, which I didn't say at first, was go to a grief group that is professionally led.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
want to make sure it's a quality grief group, not a self-made grief group, because some things can come up during your grief journey. Some people do get clinically depressed. I mean, depression is normal while you're grieving, but there's a difference if you're clinically depressed.
Yeah.
And they can help identify if you've got PTSD.
Hmm.
And they know how to facilitate your expression of feelings.
Yep. Yeah.
So,
Ooh, all that. Wow. I mean, I just imagine the courage it took. So 1971 is when your son died.
yes.
1981 is when you
Hmm.
started to kind of recognize and realize that this is something you need to deal with. The courage that it takes to
Yeah.
to start confronting grief,
Yeah.
um, especially after it's fresh and new. That,
Yes.
I mean, for one, good for you for doing that. And what I'm hearing in that is an incredible sense of permission that
Yes.
there is the stuff to do immediately after a death. Um,
Hmm.
there's a lot to do and a lot that distracts
Hmm.
us, or a lot we use to distract ourselves. But it's
Yes.
never what I'm hearing you say. I hope this is what I'm hearing you say. It's never too late to start to take it on.
Exactly.
Because what
No.
I would hope that we all can, that any one of us could embrace that idea that grief, as awful as it is, and death and change and like the loss of what the dream for yourself was and all of that, like as awful as that is, that there is hope and there's healing on the other side of that.
Yes.
And it's not like grief. I don't know about you, but my sense of grief is that it doesn't actually go away. But
Oh,
that phrase that you used of kind of being at peace with grief, or having a relationship with grief that's a
yes.
little healthier, seems
Yes.
worthy of our aspiration.
Well, and I didn't want my daughter to grow up with a mother who couldn't, who didn't have access to her own feelings. It would
Mm,
have interrupted or affected my relationship with my children if I hadn't grieved Ian's death. And I didn't want her to be in the shadow, be a shadow. She was a unique person and deserving of all of my love.
mm, yeah. So I guess you've alluded to the power of a professionally
Hmm.
run grief, like a quality grief group, um, going to therapy, that kind of stuff. I'm curious though, what are some of the other action steps? Like, what do we do with delayed grief when we suspect we might have it?
Well, the first thing is to reach out for help.
Mm-hmm.
Talk to a therapist, talk to a grief counselor, check out a grief group. You
Mm-hmm.
know, some people with delayed grief, I stayed in my group a year, but some people just go for 6 months. It depends on where you got hung up.
Yeah.
You know, it might be shorter for you,
Yeah.
or talk to a pastor. It's really important to talk to somebody else because healing doesn't take place in isolation. You can't change you don't learn new perspectives. You don't gain some new wisdom that someone else shared.
Yeah.
So, journaling is really important because writing down your feelings, uh, it gives you a way to track your progress.
Mm-hmm.
And it also, people who write down their feelings, studies have shown that they live longer.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
it's important. And sometimes it's easier to write in a journal what you're uncomfortable saying out loud.
Yeah.
It's important to get it out.
Yeah.
And if you can always write a letter to the deceased and tell them everything you wished you had said, it's very important if they hurt you, that you tell them how you felt, tell them what they did, tell them what you wish they had done and what you had wished they would have said to you.
Yeah.
Because we have that old saying, don't speak ill of the dead.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but the truth is, our relationships are mixed bags with negative and positives.
Oh,
Uh,
absolutely. Yeah.
yeah,
And
and some more than
because
others.
just because somebody dies doesn't mean we have to start pretending that that's
Yeah,
not true.
yes, that they're a saint.
Right,
Yeah,
right. How silly.
yes.
Yeah.
What other things can we do? We can do, uh, I'm kind of blanking for a minute here.
Oh, that's okay.
Oh, you can you can get a punching bag. If anger is a big issue for you, get a punching bag. My husband put a punching bag in the basement for me, and it was gold. I went down there and I pounded that thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was really, really a good way to process it, get it out, instead of directing it at him, because I would misdirect it
Mm-hmm.
at him, at my sisters, at the rest of my family. And I hadn't learned in my family how to express anger without it
Yeah.
becoming rage. So I had to
Ooh.
learn this all over again.
Mm-hmm.
And I was glad I did. And it really helped. Another thing that was helpful, and what you can do if you're in a grief group, is bring one of your loved ones to a meeting with you. My husband came to a grief group meeting, and he cried through the whole thing. And he
Mm.
said, now I understand how deeply this has been affecting you.
Yeah.
And it really helped us come closer together. It was really helpful for
Yeah.
us.
Yeah.
Another thing you can do is you can burn a pink candle. Pink candles symbolize healing, and you
Huh.
can get one on Amazon.
All right. Burn a
So,
pink can. I sitting around a fire, whether it's a
mm-hmm.
candle or a campfire, whatever,
Yes,
that's one of the that is a location of healing. I think it's as old as the species, that we're a part of.
yes. Yeah, it's a way to honor themselves and healing for yourself.
Yeah.
I light a pink candle all the time for
Yeah.
myself. They're on Amazon. They
I
have
need to
great
get a
big
pink
pillars.
candle.
They're excellent.
Okay. Well,
Um,
this is
I
helpful.
want to share sort of the end, kind of the culmination of my journey. I want to take
Yeah.
some time for that.
Let's do it.
Um, as I was getting, as I was healing, John and I took a trip to Sedona, Arizona. And we went to the Church of the Holy Cross. And
Hmm.
it's a church that juts out over the rocks. And we lit candles in honor of Ian and Sarah and others who have died in our past.
Hmm.
And then we went down the winding steps into the basement. And
Hmm.
I came upon a stand, and it had first names on it, little cards with your first name. Well, I looked up Jacqueline, and the meaning of Jacqueline is guardian of light. And
Huh.
I knew at that moment that I would write a book someday and that I would hold the light to help others who have delayed grief.
Oh,
And that stayed with me.
and look at you, you're doing it.
I am.
Ah,
Yes. Yes,
that's
I
so,
am.
that's amazing.
Yes.
Wow.
And then I knew when I got back, I had two steps to do before I left the grief group. First of all, I went to the hospital. A nurse helped me. She got a copy of Ian's chart
Hmm.
and she gave it to me and had let me sit in an office down the hall from hers. And I started looking at it, and all of the well baby checks were in the front of the chart. You know, it's talking about a happy, healthy baby, times of crawling, what they ate,
Hmm.
first words. And I thought she gave me the wrong chart.
Hmm.
This isn't Ian's chart. So
Hmm.
I picked up the chart and I walked down the hallway and I was going to tell Sue, but the door was closed. So I went back down the hall into the room and I thought, well, there can't be two Ian McCauley's. We called him Ian
Yeah.
McCauley's. And so I looked to the back, and of course, the baby had died.
Hmm.
And so what I did was I recorded all of those happy, healthy memories.
Hmm.
In fact, she let me take the chart home. It was kind of a no-no, but she slipped it in an envelope, and
Huh.
I was able to bring it home. And I held that chart because the it was the documentation that I had that he walked on this earth.
Oh, yes.
And yes, and what I realized in reading it was that when I blocked out the sad memories, I lost all those happy memories.
Hmm.
You lose them all.
Yeah.
You lose
Yeah.
them all.
Hmm.
And then I had one more step to do, and I wanted to go back to the room where Ian had died.
Hmm.
And so again, the nurse who came with me, and we went up to the cancer station, the pediatric cancer station, and I dared to step into my past. It had not changed. The
Hmm.
station was laid out exactly the same. In 10 years, it had never been updated, remodeled, so it was
Wow.
exactly how it had been.
Yeah.
And we uh, we walked around the station, and she walked with me, and I shared memories. And we went to the bone marrow room, which was particularly hard for me because at that time, doctors did not treat children's pain. They believed that children did not have the same pain as an adult would in the same situation.
Hmm.
They were given Tylenol. That was it. So it was awful. It was a nightmare.
Heartbreaking.
So anyway, I wanted to do the last step alone. Sue had told the nurses this is a mother who wasn't allowed to grieve.
Hmm.
And they had cleared the room of the other children, and they put a chair in Ian's room for me to sit. And so I sat there for a while and I looked to his crib, and he wasn't laying there sobbing. He wasn't crying and kicking his feet. And then I looked to the tiny wheelchair in the corner of the room, and he wasn't sitting there staring expressionlessly. He
Hmm.
used to sit and stare. In fact, when I walked into the room, he wouldn't even acknowledge me. He had disassociated, and I felt guilty.
Mm.
I felt bad because I felt like I betrayed him by treating him. All of a sudden, there was this brilliant white light.
Hmm.
It filled the room. It was white, it was golden, and this golden white orb was before me.
Mm.
And it was the spirit of my son.
Yeah.
And a feeling of peace washed through my whole body.
Wow.
And he told me that he was okay. He was okay.
Mm.
And I realized that when he let go of his pain, I picked it up
Oh,
and
Jackie.
carried it for the next 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was able to begin to live my life again. That night, John and I and Sarah went out to dinner to celebrate the fact that Ian was in the light.
Mm-hmm.
It was such a gift of grace. I thank
Incredible.
God for that gift of grace. It was beautiful. And I
Wow.
came to peace. And I haven't lost that peace.
Yeah.
I haven't lost that peace. Of course, I feel sad from time to time, um, but I have a lot of peace.
Yeah.
I've
Yeah.
accepted his death, and I still have a relationship with him, but it's based on the reality of his death. So I talk to him.
Mm. Yeah.
So,
I'm so glad that you had the journey that you had and have found peace with that grief. And
yes.
I'm really, really grateful for all the ways this conversation being one of them,
Hmm.
that you have walked alongside a lot of people in their
Yes.
own grief and garnishing whatever courage it takes to look at it in the eye and to grieve well and fully.
Hmm. Yes.
I think that, um, to go back to what you said earlier, like grief is not something that we can do in isolation and by ourselves.
No,
And
no.
so I'm grateful to that we're in community together, and all of us
Yes.
all of us together get to walk with each other, because it's humans can't do this alone.
Yes. That's
Hmm.
right.
Well, thank you for this time and for your wisdom and your willingness to
Hmm.
share your story and bring us into it and help us to look at our own stories, Jackie.
If you want, you can go to my website. It's
Yep.
www.Jacqueline, Jacqueline, Werket, as you know, WERKET.com. I have a lot of stuff about delayed grief, and you can sign up for my newsletter.
Wonderful.
And
And we'll
I
link
want to
that in the
say,
show notes too, so
yes.
people can click on it. Yeah.
Yes, my book will be coming out either January 26th or 27th. So
Okay.
the Grief Postponed will be launched, and I'll let everybody know.
And I will say to everybody listening, I got to read an early copy of it, and it's excellent. So please do go. It's going to be just on Amazon. Is that correct?
Yes,
So it's available on Amazon in January, and it really, really is beautifully written. Thank you for writing it.
you're welcome.
Yeah. And thanks for the time. And
Hmm.
this has been great. Thank you, Jackie.
Yes.
All
Thanks
right.
for having me on.
You bet. Take good care.
All right. Bye now.
Bye.